Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci fi show where things can get totally radical. Now, today I will be interviewing a very beautiful lady in the world of television. I actually had a huge crush on her growing up. Her name is Caryn Richman. She played Gidget in the Gidget revival series in the mid 80s. And probably the role she's known for the most, second role that she's known for the most, she played Greg Brady's wife Nora on the Bradies, which she starred in the Very Brady Christmas TV movie, spun off into the series. And she was in a couple other things as well. She was in my favorite horror movie of the last few years, Beyond the Gates. And I'm going to talk to her today. And I'm pretty excited. I didn't know if she was on social media, and then almost a month ago I found her, and she jumped at the chance to do the interview, and I'm pretty excited. It's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, here is my interview with Caryn Richman.
Hi, this is Karen.
Caryn?
Tommy.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
it's okay. How are you?
I hope we're not absolutely live at the moment.
Oh, I am recording.
Uh-oh. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just dealing with some family drama. My mom's in the hospital, so I was balancing some phone calls. How are you?
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm okay.
Okay. Where are you located?
Redding, California.
Oh, okay. So you're on the West Coast as well. And
Yeah,
your podcast is obviously not live. You recorded and then you...
I edit. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Very good. Um, okay. So tell me, you're friendly with so many people that I know.
Yes, indeed.
I love that. And have you worked with all of them as well?
Yeah. I mean, I've interviewed Jennifer Runyon twice. Um, I've interviewed, not on the show, but at a convention, I've interviewed Kelly Maroney and Barbara Crampton. I haven't interviewed her yet, but I've known her through conventions as well and stuff. And yeah, I'm pretty active.
I love that. And this is your own podcast that you do, right?
Yes, indeed.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, good. So tell me, what can I tell you about the Brady Bunch? Tell me what can I do for you?
Well, let's see. I'd like to go back to the beginning first, if I may. Uh, First, by the way, are you easily offended?
Not in the slightest.
Awesome, because occasionally I drop an F bomb.
Oh, please. Occasionally I drop an F-bomb as well, so there.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, good. We'll get along just fine.
Yes.
Okay. So
So,
um, there's a lot of excitement around the Brady Bunch all of a sudden. I know it's the 30th anniversary of the Very Brady Christmas, and then it's the 50th anniversary of the Brady Bunch.
mm-hmm. Yep. Next year it will be the 50th, as a matter of fact.
I'd love that. I had no idea, but it's interesting. I mean, we're jumping ahead, but I'm doing a play right now with Chris Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And Lloyd Schwartz, the writer who wrote the play, is obviously Sherwood Schwartz's son. And so I've been surrounded by so much Brady Bunch, just input in my life. And it makes me laugh because it was a chapter that happened, a couple of years ago. It was way back in the 80s and the 90s that we were doing all of that. And now all of a sudden it's resurfaced in so many ways. And it was a really sweet time in my life. I really loved doing that show and being part of the Brady Bunch. So it's been fun to have it all um, be front and center once again. I think that's wonderful.
That's awesome. Before we get into the Brady Bunch, though, uh, I'd like to talk about your beginnings, and then there's a couple other things that you did I want to talk about before.
Okay, great.
So going back to the beginning, did you know early on that you wanted to act?
I knew from the time I was a cognizant human being that I was absolutely drawn to anything having to do with performing and acting. I had dreams in those days. I sound like I'm a million years old, but when I was young, all of the Barbra Streisand musical movies were, I was exposed to them, and I just literally wanted to be Barbra Streisand. I wanted to sing and dance and, co-star with Omar Sharif, and I would just pretend that I was her. And I was exposed to my first Broadway show as a little girl. I grew up on Long Island, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that is the most magical thing in the entire world. But I had no idea that you could actually do that for a living. And so when I went to school, my intent was to be a social worker, which is probably my second love, psychology. And my major was psychiatric social work, and I was going to Syracuse University. And to make a really long story short, I went to audition for a Broadway show when I was in my junior year of college, and it was Grease on Broadway. And I did that just because you got to stand on the Broadway stage when you go to audition for a Broadway show, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. So cut to like 2 months later, I was cast as Sandy in the National Touring Company and ultimately did the role on Broadway. So I really switched gears immediately. It was the first time I really understood that you could do the thing that you loved more than anything in the world, and somebody was actually going to give you, a paycheck for it. So that was really thrilling for me, really thrilling. So the very long answer to your question is I always knew it was my first love, but I had no idea that I was going to be able to do it professionally. But once I was off and running, there was no stopping me. So that was sort of the end of that. I was absolutely hooked. And it was a very, sort of a dream come true for me. Not even sort of, absolutely a dream come true. It was thrilling. So in that respect, I felt very, very lucky. Yeah. So that's my beginnings. And I had always done a great deal of, non-professional theater. And when I was in high school and just community theater in college, I did a production of Godspell. But again, I just didn't understand the connection between, you could actually do this and have this be your job, have this be your career. I just thought it was, something magical and a hobby that you just do just for the love of it. And so when I realized that actually there's a whole world out there where you can make a living doing this, hopefully, it opened my eyes to something I didn't realize, So
yeah,
it was fun. It was really, and I didn't, not growing up, I grew up on Long Island, so it was we were exposed to the entertainment business, but not like friends of mine that grew up here in Los Angeles who they really grew up in the world of, movies and television.
yeah.
And so they had a whole different sensibility about it. And for me, I was very far removed from that. And theater has always, always been my first love. There's nothing like it for me, at least. So yeah, that was a very long-winded answer to that question.
You must be psychic because you answered about 4 of my questions.
Oh my goodness. Well, because it's hard to tell that whole story. I mean, because really, truly, that was the beginning. That was my entree into, being a professional actor. And I was young and wide-eyed and had no idea. I had never, ever even, I knew nothing. I was so naive, and it was it was really appropriate to play that role of Sandy because I have no doubt that, a great deal of why I got that role was because I really was that character. I was, kind of sweet and wholesome and naive and very girl next door, a little innocent at the time. And very much, I think I walked out on that stage and really embodied those very characters of Sandy. It was just a thrill to be on that Broadway stage, and it was definitely the only time where I didn't really go after a role because I had no intention of being an actor. I just really wanted that one singular experience, of walking out on the stage. But anyway, I'm glad that I answered a bunch of questions. See, we cut to the chase there. There you go.
Oh, that's pretty cool, I have to say. So your first TV series was the daytime soap Texas.
Yes. Actually, when I was doing Grease, we had played the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the movie Grease was just coming out. And so there was a great deal of attention given to our particular production when we opened here in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I'm going back to that is to tell you that it became one of those things where there were agents and managers, and again, all the stars aligned and the pieces fell into place. And so I immediately had agents and managers, and then was able to go after some other projects. Before I did that soap, I did a small stint with MCA Records. We had a recording contract with a group called Tuxedo Junction. But shortly after that was a disco group, and it died along with disco in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And I auditioned out here in Los Angeles for that soap, Texas, which was a new soap on NBC that was going to start in New York City. Mm-hmm. And again, ironically, I'm from the East Coast and from, a suburb of New York. So it wasn't like I was in New York to audition for that. But yeah, auditioned out here. I remember when my agent called to tell me that I got it. Mm-hmm. And off I went back to New York to do that. And also, absolutely one of the highlights, for me, it was early on. Mm-hmm. Don't think I was a particularly good actress at the time, but I will tell you that there was never a better school of acting than a soap opera, because you quickly, I'm sure you've heard this before from actresses and actors, but wow, you're given tons of dialogue, you're thrown all kinds of, changes on the spot, and you work, so much that you can't help but become a better performer. And I feel like that's where I learned much more to have a craft and to understand really what was involved in acting. And it was really fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And there was a connection because Chris Knight at the time was doing Another World, also an NBC soap opera. We all worked out of the same studios in Brooklyn at NBC. And so that was really where I first met Chris Knight and became quite friendly with him. And a lot of the actors from Another World and Texas, we rented some summer homes out in the Hamptons, la-di-da. For the summer, we all had a big group house together out there. And we just had some crazy, wild times. But it was a really fun time to be on the soaps back then. It was great.
Yeah, me and my mom, we used to watch soap operas when I was growing up. I never saw this one. But, yeah, oh my God, people I know who have worked on soap operas, they've all told me just how fucking hard it is to do a soap opera, because you memorize like 50 pages of dialogue a day, and there's no stopping. I mean, it's a lot of pressure.
It is. First of all, what soaps did you watch? I'm just curious. I love that you watched them with your mom. That's so great. What soaps did you watch?
General Hospital, One Life to Live, All My Children, Days of Our Lives, The Young and the Restless.
So all of the, not the NBC soaps. Well, Ken Schreiner came to our show, came to Texas for, I think, 2 years, and he actually we reinvented the entire Luke and Laura storyline, where my character was kidnapped, and Kin was my love interest, Kin Shriner, and so we literally just stole their entire storyline. So I knew some of the General Hospital actors, and then later on, I actually did a short run on Young and the Restless. So the world of soaps is really dear to me, and yeah. It's crazy dialogue. And to make it more challenging, it's not like real life dialogue some of the time. A lot of it is exposition, like, oh, you didn't tell me that you married my sister and had a baby and left me last year and now just came back. It's sort of like, it's not real communication with another actor. It's a lot of telling what happened. So in case somebody missed it, they would be able to jump right into the story. So it's really funny stuff. But yeah, it's great. It's great training, no question about that.
Yeah, because it began on the radio, and they're still talking like it's on the radio,
I know it's true. Actually, that is true. You could absolutely just walk away and go into the other room, and it's fine. You still know what's going on. I think that's true. Yeah, that's funny. They did start on the radio, and they were all designed to sell soap, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's funny. Yeah.
How did you get so lucky into playing Gidget?
I don't know how I landed that role. I will tell you the process, but I think after doing Texas, I moved back to LA. I remember thinking, I don't have any idea what's next. Of course, most actors have no idea what's next.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, pardon me, excuse me, when I heard that they were casting, to play Gidget, the breakdown, which describes the roles that they're looking to fill, said that Gidget had to be petite, perky, all-American, and I thought to myself, I literally remember thinking, if I cannot get myself cast in this particular role, I really should just think about a different career. I really thought, because normally when there are casting calls, but I'm a petite woman, if they want somebody tall, I'm immediately out of the running. But here, the playing field was, much smaller because they were only looking at women that I think were like 5'2" and under or something, or maybe 5'3", 5'4". And the description was so much, sort of my vibe, and I thought, wow, maybe I really have a chance at this. But I auditioned and didn't hear anything, I think, for about a month. And then even in the callback process, it took months. They saw everybody in town, that it was anywhere near the role. I think for the producers and the studio at the time, it was Columbia Pictures Television. They were really spending a lot of energy trying to find this particular person and this character. It was so iconic, and it was important to them that they, I came to later know, it was important to them to sort of find the person that they felt most embodied, that spirit of that kind of gidgety surfer girl, optimistic girl next door, very sweet. Although that might not be what I am in person and real life, but that was what I gave off at the time, I think.
Well.
So when go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, now, to me, you always looked like Sally Field in that series.
Yes, I always felt like that she was my idol growing up. I watched her in both, Gidget and The Flying Nun. And I feel like we are very similar physically. I mean, I have different features, obviously, but from a glance, sometimes I've seen pictures of her from far away or, in some sort of press thing or on the internet, and I think, oh my gosh, that looks like my headshot, or I really do look like her. I have bigger features than she does, but we are similar, and so when I got it, because I'm the seventh actress to play the role of Gidget. So starting with Sandra Dee, and there were a number of them in between, Karen Valentine, Deborah Wally, Moni Ellis, Cindy Carroll. A lot of actresses got to play the role, but really I was grateful that they chose to go with a brunette, because they certainly could have gone the other way and gone with a blonde, blue-eyed, sort of more the original concept. But when I do remember I was at Columbia Pictures Television, which is where Warner Brothers is now. It was Warner Brothers then too, I believe.
Right.
And when I was in this huge conference room with all of these executives for our final audition, and they told me right then and there that I had gotten the role. And I literally was like bouncing off the walls in that conference room, and we called my parents back in New York with all of these executives, and we put it on speakerphone, and we let them know that I had gotten the role. And it was a really sweet, tender moment in my life. It was a great win, and the fact that the executives were laughing at me and with me, but they thought it was quite cute that I was wanting to call my parents. That was a very Gidgety moment from an actress that had just landed the role of Gidget. So I was really excited about it. We didn't really know what was going to happen with it, but it felt at the time like it was a really big win, and and it was at that time. It really was, and that was a glorious experience. That was really fun, crazy but fun. Doing that show, very perky, lots of lots of smiling, and we were one of the first shows. Actually, I believe we were the first show to ever be produced for first run syndication. Meaning we didn't have a network behind us, so we were on a different channel in every city.
Yeah.
We were also the first show to ever shoot out of sequence. So we shot 5 shows in 15 days, but we shot every single scene out of those 5 shows that took place in a particular place. So if we were shooting scenes in a bedroom, we would shoot scenes from 5 different shows that took place in the bedroom, one after another. And then we would move to the beach and shoot every single scene from 5 different shows that took place at the beach. So really, it was so hard to have any sense of continuity.
Yeah.
And things were, we would walk into one scene. I would walk into a scene with a flower in my hair and cut to a shot where there was no flower. It was sort of a continuity nightmare because it was just impossible to keep it all straight. So mostly we just changed bathing suits and smiled a lot for that show. It was it was difficult to know what we were doing day to day, but we just kept it light and fun, and it was, a bit of an adult cartoony kind of a show anyway, so it was okay. But we had a lot of fun. We really did. It was a great time.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, go ahead.
I remember seeing it reran in the mid-'90s on the Family Channel, and it had such a great cast. It had Vincent Van Patten, Don Stroud, who played the Great Kahuna, Anne Lockhart, Johnny Yoon, William Shallert, Will Nye. I mean, that's a great cast.
Yeah, that was our movie. That was Gidget's summer reunion. A lot of those actors didn't necessarily come with us into the series, but certainly William Shallert as my dad, working with him was such an honor. He was everybody's dad. Yeah. He was hilarious too, and he had a little bit of a, he had a huge twinkle in his eye, and he had a little bit of sort of an off-center humor. He could be a little lewd at times, and he made me laugh so hard right before a take all the time. So he was glorious to work with. We laughed so hard. And Dean Butler as Moondoggie. But all the actors and Don Stroud came with us over to the series, which we did subsequently, after the movie of the week, Gidget Summer Reunion. But everybody, again, it was such a great time. Everything was sort of ahead of us, and we didn't know what the future was going to bring, and not that anybody ever does. But here we were recreating this story that had a very rich history that people were excited about at the time, and I loved working with everybody. Annie Lockhart was a dream. Everybody. It was just, Vincent Patton, fabulous. Everybody. no egos. Everybody was just really open to just creating the best thing we could under all of the various circumstances, and just bringing the fun and the spirit of that particular show, because that's really what was important with it. We weren't, doing Shakespeare. We were doing Gidget. So it was important to have that sense of lightness and, a little frivolity and playfulness and energy. And, I hope that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did. Yeah, it was fun. Really fun.
Yeah, and the TV movie was directed by Bruce Bilson. I interviewed his son, Danny Bilson.
Oh, yes. I know them both. And I just very recently, I saw Danny Bilson, actually, at Florence Henderson's memorial.
Oh.
And that, it was actually a joyful memorial for her. What a life. That's a whole other subject. But it was fun, just on a personal note, to have those two worlds collide for me in that split second, realizing, that my director from Gidget was in the same room with my Brady Bunch comrades, and here we were all together. It became a small community all of a sudden. So that was quite nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Danny Bilson, he does all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I love the sci-fi stuff he did in the 80s. That's why I interviewed him.
So you're a classic television buff, yes? Is that a correct assumption?
Oh, movies and television, yes.
Okay. I love it. So you have an enormous pool to pull from of actors to talk to and directors, and yeah, it's interesting. So do you have a feeling, I'm just curious, about sort of what went on? I mean, because historically, it was a very different time, and television shows, it was a very different vibe. Classic television, is very, very different than, and even film is very different than what we have going on today.
Right.
Both extraordinary in their own ways, but do you have a preference? Do you have feelings about, the genres today as opposed to back then?
I don't watch a whole lot of television today. It's just because I just don't think there's anything that great out there anymore.
There's a lot of...
I think there's a lot of dark stuff out there today, and I have no problem with dark. I love dark, but I just think there's not enough, happy stuff out there today.
Do you know Herbie J. Pilato by chance?
That name sounds familiar.
You should talk to him. I know I'm plugging him. You'll probably maybe edit this part out, but he runs the Classic Television Preservation Society, and he's somebody I should hook you up with. He'd be really interesting for you. I'll text you his name. You can look him up, but he has such a deep love and respect for classic television, and he's written all kinds of books, about that era, and I'll pass that along to you. But he's a wonderful resource, and he has brought a lot of classic television personalities together for all kinds of events and book signings. He's just written a book on Mary Tyler Moore. He has a book out on Elizabeth Montgomery. Just I think you would enjoy talking to him and maybe interviewing him. He would be an interesting one. I think you have a lot in common with him based on what I'm hearing you say. But anyway, let's get back to me, shall we? Let's talk about me. No, I'm kidding. Me.
Okay, so now comes the role of Nora in Very Brady Christmas / the Bradys. By the way, I wanted to mention before, I had a huge crush on you when I was a kid.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what your age range is. Sort of what you were. I mean, I was a child. I grew up in the '60s and the '70s, but I'm not sure what that has to do with what you just said. But I was just going to say you're too young for that. But then I realized I don't really know when you grew up. I appreciate that compliment. That's very sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh,
That's,
you're very
good.
welcome. You're very welcome. I'm 35, and I was 5 when that TV movie aired. I remember when it
Yeah.
first aired.
So, oh my God, you were a little puppy. Oh, I
Yep.
love it. But and that's really interesting that you were younger.
Hmm.
Coming from me, you were significantly younger, and you have that love of an era of entertainment that you really didn't live through. So,
Yep.
what do you attribute that to? Was that your mom, do you think?
Well, I mean, I grew up watching the stuff that they watched, early on. I've always been an old, movie and TV buff. It's just been that way. I've been that way my whole life, you know. Um, I don't really know how it began. It's just something that's always been a part of me.
I love it. I think that's really cool when younger audiences really sort of seek that out because it really was a different time and a very different, a different animal. It's like when I watch some of it today, I realize it's just so bloody wholesome. And
Yeah.
so, it was, I mean, I love it. It's great. It really, but it is like, when you look at what's going on today, and there's some really fascinating, interesting stuff going on today, but yeah, I've watched some things, lately that I'm like, oh, wow, what is that doing to kids? I worry
Yeah.
about sometimes the very young people having access and exposure to all kinds of stuff. Um, I think back then it was just, I hate to sound like I'm a million years old, but it really was a simpler time
Hmm.
and a sweeter time in some respects, in a lot of respects, actually. So I feel like I'm like, hello, when I was your age, I was, Okay, anyway. Um,
It certainly was. But so how did you get the role of Nora?
so I knew that they were doing a remake of the Brady Bunch,
Hmm.
and Lloyd Schwartz, Sherwood Schwartz's son, so it's Sherwood that created Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch.
Right.
He was a wonderful, wonderful man. That's the dad, Lloyd's dad. Um, and Lloyd had worked on the Brady Bunch as well. And Lloyd tells the story that he watched Gidget and he decided that he was going to have me on the Brady Bunch.
Hmm.
And he liked me and he thought I would be perfect for it. And we also have a good laugh because he told me that my first audition for that show was great.
Hmm.
My second audition was great, but that my actual final callback
Hmm.
somehow was not as good as he had hoped, and he cast me anyway. So I believe that I was just cast on that because, Lloyd liked me. Sherwood ended up feeling that I would be the right, uh, you know, kind of an actress for this particular show, and that it would be a good match for Barry to be his wife. And um, that the process of auditioning for the Brady Bunch was not nearly as strenuous as Gidget, so I'm happy to report that. And again, I remember when I was cast in that, my first thought was, am I destined to do remakes for the rest of my life? And bringing back, because that's
Yeah.
the coincidence to do Gidget and the Brady Bunch. And I thought, okay, my next goal is to do the remake of The Flying Nun or something. But then I was excited. The Brady Bunch. Who didn't grow up watching the Brady Bunch at some point? At least, that's a rhetorical question. I had watched it not so much growing up, but in the rerun stage, and the Brady Bunch. That was a household name, maybe more so than Gidget. I think absolutely more so than Gidget.
Yeah.
Gidget appealed to a lot of young, girls. I think more than anything at the time. I know my brother growing up didn't watch Gidget, but the Brady Bunch, and I do remember walking onto that set the
Hmm.
first time and meeting them all and just thinking, this is historical. This is
Yeah.
Florence Henderson and Robert Reed and the Brady Bunch, all of them. Um, we were missing an actress in each incarnation in a Very Brady Christmas. Of course, Jennifer Runyon played um, Cindy, because Susan Olsen was on her honeymoon.
Yeah.
And then, oh no, was it the opposite of that? Yes, no, Susan Olsen was there for the series, but Maureen was not. Maureen McCormick was not. Leah Ayres played her role for the short-lived series, The Bradies.
Right.
But in A Very Brady Christmas, that, you know, also, again, these are iconic characters that they were bringing back. I suppose maybe back when we did that movie, it wasn't that far from the original. But now, certainly in 2018, looking back, now, you know, the Brady Bunch, I mean, it's the show that will never go away. They're doing the Brady Bunch, you know, redoing of their home in honor of the 50th on HGTV. Did you see that? I'm sure you did.
Which one?
They bought the Brady Bunch house.
Oh, yes.
They're going to, and they're redoing it with the Brady Bunch cast, and so it's that show just has a life of its own. And we've had a number of conventions. We're doing, I believe, a convention again next year, New Jersey, Brady Bunch convention. And those fans are amazing. They know every detail. I'm stunned. I'm stunned even as a visiting Brady. You know, I married into the Brady family, and I had a relatively very small, you know, role in terms of the bigger picture of the history of the Bradys, but they know everything.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. It's fabulous.
I know.
And it was great to be on that set with all of them and watch them, and it was, you know, interesting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, Jennifer Runyon is a good friend of mine. She's been on the podcast twice. Oh my God, she loves it. She loves it when I tell dirty jokes.
Oh, well, come on. I want to hear a dirty joke then. Come on, Gidget.
I will.
Nora needs a dirty joke. Let's hear one.
I will towards the end, I promise.
Okay, good. Jennifer is a love bug. I adore her. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the Bradys, when we walked onto, they were, you know, when we did when we first walked onto that set of A Very Brady Christmas, it was definitely a division of the Bradys. Then there were the Brady spouses, some of whom had already been involved with the Bradys because they did, I think, like Jerry Hauser had already done a movie of the week, A Very Brady Bride,
Yeah.
and Ron Coleman. So there were some of us that were walking onto that set for the very, very first time. I was Martha Quinn, who played Mike Lukenland's husband. Wife. You know, some of us have never had anything really, no interaction at all. And I do remember thinking that the spouses sometimes would sort of band together and support each other.
Right.
The Bradys had such a strong bond. You know, come on, they've been doing this for so long, and they've worked together, you know, from when they were little puppies, and now they're grown up. And it was at first it was I don't want to say intimidating. That's the wrong word, but there was definitely a need to find your place in and amongst that set and those actors.
Right.
You know, and it was not always the smoothest set. I'm not sure how much to say publicly, but it was lovely. But certainly Florence and Robert Reed had their I'm not even sure disagreements. I think Robert Reed wasn't really sure that he wanted to be there again for this incarnation.
Yeah.
So he wasn't always the happiest person on that set.
Yeah,
it was
the show was pretty fucking dark because, you know, Bobby has an auto crash and he's paralyzed. There's an episode where Greg and Peter hate each other and they almost get into a fight. I mean, it was a pretty dark version of the Bradys.
Oh my God! Yes, and Marcia was an alcoholic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was like a soap opera. It was the Brady Bunch turned into a soap opera, and what was happening then was 30-something was the most popular show at the time.
Right.
And they wanted to somehow, I think, this is my guess, nobody's ever said this to me, but we always had this joke, we were doing Brady something. And it didn't work because people wanted to see the Brady Bunch, they wanted to see happy endings and almost corny storylines and sweet,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, it's exactly why the Bradies as a series we were canceled, I believe, long before we fulfilled the order that we originally had. Paramount, they pulled the plug on us because nobody wanted to see Marsha as an alcoholic. That doesn't work. And now, Bobby as a paraplegic, that so doesn't work either. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
plus...
we still had so much fun. We really had fun. I mean, I don't know that anybody really saw a lot of that show, but I know they have episodes on YouTube, and just recently I watched some of them because I don't have copies of them myself, and it just made me smile because we laughed and laughed and laughed. It's funny, it's sweet. It's also a very sweet time in my life, I think,
Yeah, and plus...
It's funny because when you're doing things, you don't really think about it as, one day I'm going to look back on it. I guess that's true of life. You just, you live your life on a day-to-day basis. But when I look back, there's definitely chapters that absolutely make me smile, warm my heart, and I get, I think to myself, wow, that was just a really fantastic experience. How lucky I am that I got to do that or be that or play with those people and definitely a part of entertainment history. So, yes, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Rosanna Arquette's father played Sam at the end of the Christmas show.
Yes, he did. That's so funny. Gosh, you know that.
Yeah.
And getting to work with Alice, oh my God, I'm calling her Alice. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, Ann B. Davis.
Ann B. Davis. She was, it really was like a Twilight Zone in moments, where you watch something as a young person, and now here you are as an adult, like actually, working with these people. It was great. Yeah, it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. So, yay for the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
And 50 years, that's incredible.
Yeah, 50
Crazy.
years.
Even 30 years for the movie, for Very Brady Christmas. I can't quite get my head around that, how that's even possible. But, yeah, it is. There we have it.
Oh my God, I want to ask you about two things you've done in the last few years that I was intrigued by. A couple of years ago, you were on an episode of Mark Maron's show, Maron, and Bobcat Goldthwait directed. That guy made me want to do stand-up when I was only 3 years old. I love that guy.
Oh, I know. That was an honor to work with him. Absolutely. And the funny thing about that show, I was so excited because I was cast as Ray Romano's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And although at the time I didn't have a lot to do, I still had a few scenes. I had some scenes that were on camera. So, yay. And I remember I made the mistake of putting it out on Facebook, watch me tonight. And when we actually watched that episode, it was clear they did most of it off camera. Oh, no, I'm not even on the show. All you hear is us arguing off stage in that particular episode. So the experience was amazing, but I really learned a valuable lesson to never, publicize anything that I'm doing, because the possibility of you being cut out or them making a different decision is, there's a high probability of that.
Yeah.
So I remember being embarrassed about that, but it was really fun. It was a great set. Working with Ray Romano was a huge treat, and getting to nag him and be his complaining wife was quite fun. So that was great. That was really fun.
Yeah, I love Mark's. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I keep you. It's challenging to do this on a cell phone, isn't it? I'm sorry.
No.
You didn't. You wanted to do stand up, and you didn't do stand up. How come?
Oh, no, I've been doing stand-up since 2006.
Oh, okay. So you do stand up. Oh, okay, good. I love it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the dirty jokes come in. Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. Do you have some other favorite stand-ups that you like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that time, I mean, at a young age, because, my dad and I, we watched a lot of dirty stuff when my mom wasn't home. I mean, he got me into Sam Kinison and Andrew Dice Clay, and later I got into guys like Richard Jeni, and then of course I'm a big Rodney Dangerfield and George Carlin fan.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like them all. I love it. That's funny. Okay, I like it.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
listened.
see your stand-up. Do you ever come down to LA to do stand-up?
I did a couple years ago to try to get stage time, and I was at the Ice House in Pasadena, and like no one got me.
I think that is the toughest business of all. I think.
Hmm.
I have some friends. I have some friends that are stand-ups, and and I watch them and what they go through, and it seems it's all challenging in its own way. Doing anything creative is always challenging, I think, in certain respects. But comedy, there's something about comedy. Maybe that's just me. It feels so difficult to have to be funny on cue.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole different animal. I'm afraid. I don't know. You have my utmost respect. I,
Oh,
I think it's great. It's great, but it's hard.
I'll send you a
Right?
couple. Yeah, I'll send you a couple of my stand-up videos.
Oh, I would love that. Please do that. I would love that. I want to see you. That would be great.
Hmm.
It would be fun.
Yeah, I've been up
All
here.
right.
I've been up here in Reading for a year now, and there's no stand-up up here and stuff. But when I go back to the Bay Area where I'm from, I do it. I'm gonna hopefully either move back there next year or Los Angeles is my goal. I've been trying to move to Los Angeles for 17 years, but it might actually happen next year.
Oh, good. Come down. We want you here.
Yeah.
Come down. Yeah, that would be great. All right. That's good. That sounds great.
Now, 2 years ago, you were in probably my favorite horror movie in the last decade and a half, Beyond the Gates.
Oh, well, that you saying that I was in that is being incredibly kind, but Barbara Crampton is one of my dearest friends.
Yes.
So we basically grew up together. We had the same agent back in the day when I was doing Texas, and she was on. I want to say that she was on Young and the Restless back then. I'm not sure. So, and we just became very, very dear friends, and so we really grew up together and shared all kinds of life together, and have been very, very close for however many years that was, 30, 40 years we've been in each other's lives. So she
Ugh.
called me and she just basically said, do you want to play the role of the mom in the beginning? You get killed off within the first 20 seconds. And I was like, yeah. And who knew, I didn't know very much about it. I'm obviously, sadly, not in that genre very much. I've done a few films that were horror films of a sort, but not really the way Barbara, obviously the kind of films that Barbara has done,
Mm.
um, and Jackson, the director.
I've interviewed
But,
him. Yeah.
oh, he's so fantastic.
Oh,
I love him.
we got along great because we're the same age and we love the same movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he created that movie as a classic horror film. Again, going sort of back to the days when a horror film, it wasn't about special effects. It was just a fabulous horror film. It's one of my favorite movies, too, and I was thrilled to be a really tiny part of it. And, I'm
Hmm.
grateful to Barbara that she thought of me. And so it was really fun. But mostly I just enjoyed hanging out with all those people because I didn't, I shot for one day on that. But it was fun. We had fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
Really.
I love it. And how I first saw it, oh my God, I have an amazing story about how I met Barbara. I mean,
How?
Okay,
Wow.
you're gonna have a zillion questions afterwards, and that's fine with me because I love telling this story. I've told it many times on the podcast. Um, okay, starting in 2013, unfortunately, me and my mom were homeless for a couple of years, and in 2014, I'm staying at somebody's house, and on Christmas night and stuff, I'm watching her movie Reanimator, and
Oh,
I'm getting drunk and stuff. I was a pretty bad alcoholic during that time, and I and I like I looked her up on Wikipedia and stuff just for the hell of it because I hadn't gone through her Wikipedia in a while, and I found out she lived in San Francisco, which is where I lived, and I I thought to myself, God, wouldn't it be so awesome if I knew Barbara Crampton? And then I thought, yeah, it's never gonna happen. A month later, I had a car accident, and
oh my God.
I spent 30 days in a coma. Yes, it was
My
pretty bad.
God.
I got pretty bad injuries and all that stuff.
I'm so
And
sorry. Oh,
hmm
okay. That's, wow.
that was a life changing experience that made me decide that life is too short. I got to pursue show business because that's what I was meant to do, and I can't work a real job anymore because my leg is all messed up. So in September of 16, I go to this horror convention in LA, Monsterpalooza,
Mm-hmm.
and Barbara's there. And Barbara only knows me as a follower of her on Facebook, right? She seemed at first a little uncomfortable by my presence because I'm this big guy. I'm 6'3" and I'm 280 plus pounds. I'm a big guy and stuff. And we had a nice conversation, but she just, I don't know, seemed a little, I don't know, intimidated by me or something the entire time. And 3 months later, she's having the premiere of Beyond the Gates at the Alamo Draft House in San Francisco, and I go to it. And she was a completely different person than she was at the convention. She welcomed me with open arms, and we talked for like 45 minutes at the bar before the movie started. She put all her
Oh, wow.
attention on me. I mean, a few people interrupted, but she interjected us into the conversation and everything. And I watched the movie, and it was so awesome. The movie just blew me away, you know. And afterwards, I realized in 2 weeks it's going to be 2 years to the day since I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to know Barbara Crampton?" You know, and then here I am, almost 2 years later.
So, wow. That's quite a story. First of all,
Hmm.
I'm I appreciate you sharing like what went on in your life and also the conclusions that you came to. And I'm sorry for all of that you went through. But it also sounds like you're in a really good place now because you know what you want to be doing, and
Hmm.
you know that you're not going to settle for anything less. And as far as Barbara is concerned, yeah, you know she's a special one. She's very warm, and she's got a lot of people pulling at her a lot, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm glad. I'm so glad that you got to meet her, and that was a goal, and that she was warm and welcoming, and yeah, she's quite great with her fans, especially. You know, I mean, I think it's
Hmm.
sometimes difficult because you're pulled in a lot of directions, and especially at those events.
Yeah.
I often feel like, you know, you want everybody to feel special, and you want to respect everybody, and you appreciate that they're coming potentially to see you. But it is a crazy, you know, your focus is all over the place, and sometimes it's hard to know, you know, it's hard to know
Hmm.
who to talk to and what to say and how to make everybody feel welcome and respected while you're being pulled in so many different directions. But
Yeah.
anyway,
She was impressed by my knowledge of her career, and I
okay.
told I told her, I said, you know, there's nothing I haven't seen, you know, and she really liked
How
that.
great. How great is that? Yeah, that's like the ultimate, you know, flattery to have somebody that's so, you know, that knows. It's like, it's, you know, I think human being, right? That wants to be acknowledged for what they've done and what they want to do, and we're all the same. And so when somebody says, "Hey, I know that you did this, this, and this," it's really that's a wonderful feeling. It's like, wow, that makes my day. Thank you for knowing that I did something and that you liked something that I did. We all want to be appreciated, right? That's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also sorry that you had that car accident. That sounds really challenging. So
that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was just not driven to get anything done of what I really wanted to do. I was just working all these dead-end jobs in security and retail. There was one perk of being a security guard. I got laid a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's about it. But I just was not happy for a long time, and I was drinking, and just set me straight. It slapped me in the face, is what it did.
Well, you know what? Life absolutely throws you something, and then you see what you're made of, right? I mean, that sounds great. I'm glad that that's the effect it had on you, because that's really challenging. And I certainly am not a stranger to medical challenges and what experiences can do. So I get it. I've not been in a coma, but I certainly had a huge medical challenge. I had a ruptured brain aneurysm in 2014, and I'm absolutely lucky to be alive, and that changed my life as well. So you just look at life so differently, right? You just realize how fleeting it all is and how fragile it all is, and without getting, all deep and philosophical, if you can come out of it with the attitude that you have, I think that's fantastic.
Oh, I wish I could hug you right now.
All right, let's hug. We're hugging through the phone. Let's hug.
Yeah.
It's a virtual podcast hug. No, I get it. I think, and I think if you have not been through something like that, you understand it intellectually, but nobody can truly understand, the actuality of being faced with your own mortality and knowing that you're unbelievably lucky to still be walking around the planet, and but I'm glad you're okay. So there you have it. Really glad that you're okay, and that you got to meet Barbara Crampton.
And I got to see her again back in February. She came to. She did a festival up in Santa Rosa, and I went down there. Her and Kelly Maroney were both there, and I got to hang out with both of them.
Oh my God, two of the most beautiful, loveliest women on the planet, right?
Oh, I'll tell you the story about how I met Kelly. Oh my God. So 6 months before I had met Barbara, I went to the other Monsterpalooza, and I met Kelly there. Her and Catherine Mary Stewart were in Night of the Comet together. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time. So I met both of them. And I told Kelly that I was going to go see her theater performance that week, because I was there for 8 days in L.A. And I guess she thought that I was just another fan saying that I was going to go see her in her theater production and never show up, right? Well, I showed up, and she was so touched by that. And the next morning, I'm in my Burbank hotel. I get up, and I check my Facebook, and I get a friend request from Kelly. I accepted it, and then I teared up and started crying.
Don't cry. Don't cry. That's touching, though. That's so sweet. But you were generous with yourself, with her, and why not? That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Aww, she's lovely. She really is lovely. But I understand. You have some really good stories.
I have a lot of favorite actresses, but Kelly is literally my favorite actress of all time.
She's a talented being. She's a cutie pie.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
And she doesn't get the respect that she deserves in the industry, I think.
Well, I hate to say it, but not too many people do.
I know,
I'm
but
afraid. I don't know. It's a tough one. But I think we just all have to, as artists, keep doing what we love to do and not quite worry about that, because that can't be what motivates us. It's just that's something we have no control over. I'm afraid. That's what I feel like, at least.
I know, when you watch B movies, there's a lot of bad acting, right? Because it was shot really fast, and there was probably a lot of tension and everything, right? Kelly, she really brings what she learned in acting training and what she learned doing the soap opera Ryan's Hope. She really brings that into everything that she does. And even a B movie, that was shot pretty quickly and everything. I mean, she's a pro.
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. I have to be honest with you. I have to sort of wind this down unless you want to talk another time, because I have a commitment that I've got to go to. So tell me, how can I help wrap this up?
Well, I promised you jokes, so I'll do that.
Okay, good. Let's have a joke.
Okay. Cinderella is about to go to the ball, and she's on her period. And the fairy godmother gives her these magic tampons and says, "You gotta be home by midnight, or else they will turn into a pumpkin." Cinderella says, "Okay, fairy godmother, I will." Well, 12:30 rolls around. No Cinderella. Fairy godmother is pacing around the house, and then 2:30 comes by, and Cinderella comes home drunk, stumbling, and fairy godmother's like, "Where were you? You were supposed to be home by midnight." And Cinderella's like, "I'm so sorry, fairy godmother. I met this great guy, and we danced all night. His name was Peter Peter."
Peter Peter?
Pumpkin eater.
Oh, my God. But I'm here all night.
I love that joke.
All right. I gotcha. Well, it took me a split second to tell you I'm either slow or not thinking about that. That's funny. Oh, my God. You're funny.
Thank you.
Oh, pumpkin, Peter. Where did you hear that joke?
I heard it somewhere. I think I heard somebody say it on a podcast or something somewhere.
Oh, gosh, that's funny. You're funny. All
Thank you.
right. On that happy note, I just want to tell you that I appreciate that you wanted to talk to me. And if you need anything else, let me know. I just didn't realize it's already late.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's late there too, but I counted on about 45 minutes for us, so I didn't realize we've gone over a bit.
Yeah.
But I thank you. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for celebrating the Bradies and a Very Brady Christmas. And and I'd love to get a copy of this so I can hear us and hear what we've said to each other.
Oh yeah, I tag everybody in the podcast that friend me on Facebook.
Okay, cool. I look forward to that.
And
in the meantime, just
and also too, I would love to have you back on after the new year to do one of my follow-up conversational podcasts where we just talk about stuff.
okay, let's do that. I would like that a lot.
Okay.
It's much more fun than talking about myself, to be honest. I would rather just chat with you. You're interesting, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad you're okay, and I'm wishing you happy holidays, and just, happy. Come on down to LA. We're waiting for you, okay?
I will. Happy holidays, Caryn. God bless you, and have a great night.
You too.
Okay.
All right, you too. God bless, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Caryn Richman. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Caryn. I appreciate your kind words and your support. It's a give and take support because I support you as well. as you know, and I'm glad that you are healthy and everything is just super awesome in your life. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!